Let's get going. It's 6:01. I'm really excited everybody's here. Hi. So my name is Rachael Patterson. I am the director of Acting Studio Chicago. Thank you so much for being here. This is the 6th episode of Jammy Jams, number 6, hosted by the lovely Miss Adria Dawn, wearing a pink velour bathrobe today. And yeah, this is the 6th webinar. We're really excited that so many people have been watching and seem to be enjoying them. So thank you for coming. And I'd just like to thank thank Gita and David and Madeleine and Charles for joining Adria and myself. Adria's going to introduce all of you in a moment. So all I want to say real quick is I hope everybody out there is really staying safe. And the studio, we're doing great. We just finished our session online and we're going to start again the week of May 17th, the 6-week session online. And I want to tell you that next Monday, May 11th, we'll be taking a hiatus from Jammy Jams, but we will be here doing our new student seminar webinar with Kurt Nabig and myself, and that will be a 90-minute seminar about how we work at Acting Studio Chicago, introducing you to Shirtless 12 guideposts and how we do script analysis. So I welcome you to join us on the 11th, and then coming up on Monday, May 18th, we have Stephen Cohn, also an independent filmmaker, and an actor, Cole Doman, who was the star of Henry Gamble's Birthday Party, which was a film that Stephen made a couple of years ago. So we're excited about that and to have you come and join us for that. So thank you everybody for being here. I'm excited to watch and have a really good time. Thank you, Adria. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy. I'm going to go watch. And now I'm going to hand the virtual mic to Ms. Adria Dawn.
Excellent, Rachel. Thank you. I'm so excited to have this many people on this Zoom tonight. Thank you guys for being here. This one is Learn How Local Indie Filmmakers Direct and Produce Their Own Content. We have an incredible 4-person indie panel for you guys tonight. These filmmakers are going to offer you advice on everything you need to know when creating your own project, working on an indie film set, the festival circuit, budgets, and more. We got a lot to cover, so let's meet these people. First up, I have Madelaine Anderson. She's the co-founder and creative director of Talus Films, a Chicago-based film and video production company that specializes in independent narrative film and video work for brands with eco-conscious and sustainability missions. That's cool. She's also an actor specializing in on-camera, voiceover, and stage performance. Thank you, Madelaine, for rocking your jammies and joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Next up, we have Charles Andrew Gardner. Charles is an actor, director, and producer. He's also our SAG-AFTRA Chicago branch president, you guys, and an associate board member of the Gene Siskel Film Center. He's an accomplished stage and screen actor. He received 2 Black Theater Alliance Award nominations for his work with Timeline Theater. Lots of TV film credits, including The Chi, Chicago PD, Long Ride Home, Olympia, and Noise and Color, to name a few. Charles also teaches at Acting Studio Chicago, and I just keep hearing that that's an amazing school. You might want to check that out. And yeah, so thank you so much, Charles, for rocking your plushy robe with me and joining.
You know, thank you. Happy to be here.
We also have Gitanjali Kapila. She's a filmmaker, an academic, and a member of the faculty at the School of the Art Institute, as well as Columbia College Chicago. Her dramatic short, Breathing Above the Tree Line, has played in over 30 film festivals worldwide. She is currently in post-production on 2 shorts, Bat, as well as Grope, which were both shot last year. Gita has also delivered several academic papers all over the world at conferences, including in Moscow, Mumbai, and Buenos Aires. She's currently in development on her Christmas comedy feature, Santa Claus, and I've been lucky enough to work with her on a couple of her projects, and I am just super excited to have her tonight. Thank you, Gita.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Last but not least, we have David Tarleton. David is an award-winning producer, director, and editor. He's created programs for companies including Sony Pictures, The Muppets, Waka Waka, Comedy Central, and more. David is the producer and director of the award-winning feature Hunter, currently distributed by Random Media. He is a partner in Tarleton Dawn Productions with his wife, Adria Dawn. Who is that? He's a tenured associate professor at Columbia College Chicago and the director of graduate film programs. And most notably, he's my baby daddy. David, thank you for going downstairs to join us tonight. You're freezing up, so I'm thinking, okay, great. Thank you all. Okay, let's get going. You guys look great. I'm ready to do this. So I know that a lot of you out there are getting the itch to create your own work, probably especially right now during this pandemic. David, when do you think is the right time to start creating your own work? Or when do you suggest filmmakers start sharing their work publicly, newer filmmakers?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I would say if people have the impulse to make films, try making them, right? Like the tools have never been easier. It's never been easier to make work, to edit it out there. We'll also say if you've never made a film before, expect your first few films to be bad. I think that's a reasonable expectation. Like the first few things you do with anything, just sort of expect the learning process there. Don't because your initial work is disappointing to you. Keep getting better. It's by doing work repeatedly that you get better, and that's, you know, all of us, I'm sure our first work wouldn't. So you got to keep working on it. But I would say if you want to make work, it's never been easier, man. You know, make something small, put it on YouTube. You know, share it, get out in the world.
Yeah, and study those classes. There's so many classes online right now too to just learn the basics of filmmaking. I would suggest that. Get those all under your belt and then just do it, guys. Thank you, David. Charles, can you share with our listeners what led you to creating your own work and why?
Look, I just don't like to wait. I don't like to wait and ask for permission, you know, and so as an actor, as an artist, I'm always trying to figure out how I can like take my power back, how I can like take control over what I can control. And so if I can create some work in a way that either I'm getting casted as, or if I'm not getting casted as, but just give me opportunities to tell a story as a producer, as a writer, but then also as an actor, you know, that's what really jump-started me. You know, just taking that control back and just making art that I wanted to make.
Awesome. Thank you, Charles. Madelaine, I love how collaborative your company, Talus Films, is. I think that's so great that you work with so many artists. Can you just talk about your 12 by 12 project for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So 12 by 12 was a collaborative project, like you said, that we did over the course of 2019. So it spanned the entire year. Each month of the year, we produced a new project. So it was a combination of short films and music videos. We had 3 music videos and 9 short films at the end of the year that were all produced each month. And so we had different crews, directors, screenwriters, actors, you name it, on each production. Over the course of the year, we worked with somewhere over 100 Midwest and Chicago artists to create those films and those projects. So it was really awesome and very similar to what Charles just said. It was born out of looking around and just seeing how many artists and filmmakers wanted to make their own art and produce films, but didn't necessarily have all the connections and the resources to do that. So we provided the framework and really gave our directors a lot of free rein to create whatever they wanted to create, and we supported them through that process.
That is awesome. You guys, that is so cool. I love that you did that. Are you going to do it again?
Well, I'm going to try to sleep first. And then, yeah, so we've got some plans to continue doing short film producing and then also feature-length film producing work, and then on the commercial client branded side of things as well.
Great.
So lots of plans.
Thank you. Gita, I know you teach screenwriting. Can you talk about any simple tips for people who want to write their own content?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing is, I mean,
Where to start? That's a big
I'm
question.
like, yeah, exactly where to start. Yeah, exactly. So I think like, finding an introductory screenwriting class, I mean, it's always a good idea. There's a way in which writing for the screen is difficult because you have to find visual equivalents to express the interior life of your characters. So it takes practice. It's not writing prose at all. And I think it really does. I think it really is advantageous to study with someone who's experienced in the first instance, because the translation of, oh, I've got this idea and I want to make a movie. A lot of and this is something I tell my students, a lot of the times we think about the writing of film from the viewer's point of view. We think that what we see is the way a story is written, and that's just not true. And so one of the first things I, explain to my students is that you got to forget about thinking about what you see as a viewer as how you engineer a story for the screen. And that's a process. It's not it's not just information that's out there. So I think taking a class is important.
Great. Yes, I do too. Thank you.
Sure.
Alyssa S. has the question. She has some questions. She says, do you guys have any good resources for beginners you could recommend? Any books or classes in specific, or websites? Do you have any filmmaking books you want to recommend, David?
Oh gosh, there are so many filmmaking books, and so many good sites. I mean, to be honest, there's a plethora of YouTube videos to learn particular tool. Well, actually, I was going to say lynda.com, but it's not that anymore. It's LinkedIn Learning. Is full of really very good tutorials on everything. All the tools really. Gosh, there's a lot of resources. But I'd also say, the idea of taking a class, the thing is, watching a tutorial can teach you a tool, unquestionably. You can say, this is the buttons. And you can learn even maybe principles from a book. But there's something to be said when you take a class for getting feedback. I think there's the iterative loop of working with someone who knows what they're doing, who can say, hey, I saw what you were trying to do. Next time, do this instead. Like that's the thing that you don't get out of watching YouTube videos that I'd say is one of the real benefits. It's like being in acting class, right? It's the direct feedback of somebody who's been there before. And it can help you sort of take your intention and then get it actually physicalized up on the screen. Because you can have all the good ideas in the world, but if you don't have a sense of, it's like what Peter was saying. Like how do we get it on the screen and visualize it? You just tell a story in picture and sound. I think, yes, read, watch, all of these things, but feedback.
Great. And I just want to say, if you're this is to actors, but just any directors out there listening, I always recommend taking an acting class as well. Just so you're in our shoes and then we're in yours. Okay. Everybody, in regards to what it's like working on an indie film set, it seems to me a lot of times one person is wearing multiple hats. What advice would you give to newer filmmakers when they're first starting out in terms of all the hat wearing they have to do? Like Charles, I know you wore a lot of hats for Long Ride Home.
Yeah, I would say one of the most important things for wearing a lot of hats, just, for me, what I found is, one, surround yourself with a team that you can trust. So that way, when you need to take off a hat, you can, and not like actually have it still on, but it's just like facing backwards or like tucked in your pocket or something like that. Like you have to be able to surround yourself with creative people who you trust, like their integrity to like get it done, and then also their creativity, right? So like you're on the same page. Because I wrote the thing, but then somebody else directed it, and I was acting in it. So I had to, trust my director from a producer standpoint, from a writer standpoint, and from an acting standpoint, that he would like get it done, and I can release and be an actor and like bring all of my attention to that part. Another thing that I would say about wearing a whole bunch of hats, make sure that you're wearing the hats that you're passionate about, and not the hats that you begrudgingly have to wear, because then it's going to be a pain to make it. And then the whole point of like making your own art to like be creative and express your voice is going to suffer, because you're like, oh, I hate doing this part, as opposed to just finding somebody who believes in your vision enough to like help out, or like, you know, discount their rate if that's your thing, or like raise money and pay them their rate. But whatever it is, make sure that you want to wear that hat, because the work is going to be better if you do.
Great. Great. Anybody else?
Yeah, I would jump in and say, from my point of view, I've always really loved wearing a lot of hats, because like you were saying, it gives you all these different perspectives of what happens, both in front of and behind the camera and on the side of it, and up, down, sideways, right? Like it gives you the full picture of what happens, and allows you to really understand then how to produce something sort of from top to bottom. So I would say it's really advantageous to wear a lot of hats, and try different things. That's actually one of the ways you're going to find out which hats you like to wear and want to wear. But at the same time, I would say don't continue wearing all of the hats and exhaust yourself, like Charles was saying, right? Like pick the ones that you really want to be wearing, and know when too much is too much, and when you can pick up another hat and put it on and maybe wear two at the same time. And it takes practice. It's all very hands-on. You just kind of gonna have to dive in and give it a try.
Great, thank you. This is a hot topic for everybody listening, I know. Gita, can you talk to me about how you find your actors? And all of you really, they're gonna wanna know how you cast your projects.
Well, when so I made a short with Adria. I made 2 shorts with Adria. The first one was called Breathing Above the Tree Line, and I put an ad in, what is it? Access.
Actors Access.
Yeah, Actors Access and Breakdown Services. And by the way, this is the first film I had shot in Chicago. I mean, I've been teaching for a long time, and then I decided to shoot a short that I wrote. I hired a cinematographer. That was the first thing that I did. And then the second thing I did was start to cast a net for actors. And I didn't know anybody in Chicago. So I just put these ads in Actors Access and Breakdown Services. And I held auditions for 2 days at the studio at the School of the Art Institute. And, you know, took that opportunity to audition as many actors as I could. And it was truly an amazing experience. It was incredibly edifying for me to cast in this city and encounter so much great talent. And the thing that was amazing about Breathing Above the Tree Line, so the short that just finished its festival run, is that I wanted 5 actors, right? That I wanted, and they all said yes. And then it ended up, the collaboration ended up working out really, really well. In my opinion.
Didn't you reach out to agents too? Because I think I got.
Yeah, so I think it's on Actors Access. You can both, actually the first time I did it, I only reached out to actors. And there was like a missing, I think it was you, Adria, it was like a missing piece. And then I figured out that you could send your breakdowns to agents. And then that's how, yes, your agent basically put me in touch with you. And then you came to, you came and auditioned just like everybody else. And you were up for that.
Yeah.
Coming in, I was like, I was, shooting my first short in Chicago, And what I really appreciate is the actor showing up and giving it everything they have at the audition. There's an exchange that takes place always, no matter what happens. There's an exchange that takes place that is rich on both ends, can be at least.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else want to talk about how they find actors? Oh, you know what? One person says, oh, Alyssa again, I'd love to hear some ways how you fund your projects as well as paying everyone on set. Does anybody want to talk about that?
I did my last film through a grant, through DCASE, through the IAP grant, and I just applied in that year. I mean, and it's, you know, even if you don't get grant money, I think it's extremely valuable to apply for grants because they're asking questions that help you to refine your vision and to refine why you're making it, what your artist statement is, things like that. And it really helps you get all of your material in one place.
Yeah.
So, you know, apply for grants. There's tons of grants out there. Some of them are harder than others to get. But just like being an actor and like you said, being a writer, a screenwriter, take classes, like find the folks who were awarded these grants the years prior and ask them, what did you do? See if you can find, you know, anybody that sits on the review board. And if you have a personal relationship with them, ask them, what are you all looking for? Like, be resourceful and, you know, don't think that just because you've never done it before, that you can't strike gold, that you can't like figure it out and get money in that way.
I think it really comes down to being a really good investigator. You know, yeah, it's like you say, Charles, just finding it. I know, David, with Hunter, your producers had a budget, and then I remember that a lot of times the independent films go under a low budget agreement, so you can use union and non-union. So a lot of actors are paid, you know, that daily rate for a feature. What is it like? I can't remember the exact monies, but everybody, you know, we'd love to pay actors, right? Like when we can. And the union, you know, will help you figure all of that out. But I want to just, you know, get on a mini soapbox in that, you know, indie film doesn't mean non-union. In fact, it's so much of it can be union. So anything you want to add, David or Madelaine?
Well, yeah, I would say just jumping off of that, you know, we try to work with union talent as often as we can, and we've always found SAG-AFTRA to be really very flexible as far as finding ways to make the contract work, to sort of work with us. And, you know, like, especially at the low budget level, the contracts are really quite reasonable. I mean, there's paperwork you have to do and stuff, but SAG-AFTRA is great. So, but as far as financing goes, you know, something like Hunter was all private investment, you know, that it's like anytime you're trying to find investors, you know, you have to go out with prospectus and sort of convince people to put money up. We're doing a project right now that has crowdfunding as the major sort of that. So, you know, there are ways that you can find money. It's not impossible. You just have to look for it.
I think the other thing I would say is that, you know, there's this idea, it's like, oh, I've got the script, it's like, you know, it's a short, it's 15 pages long, and you don't have to do, this is film, so you don't have to do it all at once. That's the thing. I mean, you know, and I do this. I will shoot my films and then I have no money for post-production. And then I use the rough cut to go get grant money. So between the Illinois Arts Council and the School of the Art Institute, I've raised $5,500 for post, and I need it because I have to do some VFX, just because I've got a rough cut. And I would also say, like, even if you don't have all the money to shoot the whole film, you know, it's like mobilize whatever resources you have to do any part of it. One, because it becomes real, and then two, you can use that to then leapfrog, right, to the next step. One of my favorite stories about this is great Indian filmmaker from the 50s and 60s, Lefty Ray, made these 3 films, and his day job was as an illustrator in Calcutta. This was in the 50s, and he sold his wife's jewelry in order to shoot this film in this village over the weekends. And these films, when he put out the Butler Punchley, his first film, it played at Cannes, this movie that he made on the weekends with his wife, selling his wife's jewelry, played at Cannes, and then ended up playing at Lincoln Center for 9 months. And then he went on to make a body of work that is outstanding. So I love that story. Yes, I love that.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Because, you know, you started off by saying that indie film doesn't equal non-union film. I want to jump in there and say indie film doesn't equal...
It equals any.
Yeah, it doesn't equal free. It doesn't equal like non-paying. Okay. And I know that like it's like when we're first starting out, we're like, I like come and do it for free. Like not money isn't the only form of currency, one. So let's think about that. But then also, if we're using this, like David said, like each film is getting better. And if your goal is to produce, then asking for money is never gonna stop. Like even the biggest budget of film has somebody's asking for money from somebody at some point. So that's a skill in itself to refine. You know, even if it's, hey, I'm gonna give you $50, like figure out a way to raise that money.
Yeah, and I would just say too, like if you are really just starting out, like say you are an actor and you want to create your own content, like pick up your phone, find friends, get your brother, sister, cousin, whatever, and go do something. You know, just put pen to paper and take your camera and shoot something, because you're gonna just start to see how you build a narrative, how you build a story. And even to that casting question earlier, when people are just beginning, it's gonna be they're gonna cast from their close circle of people that they know. So just being connected and tied in with people who are producing their own work will start that ball rolling. And, you know, stay in that stage as long as you feel comfortable, but also know that you want to progress to the place where you're going to pay people, you're going to put out a casting call, you're going to solicit that and make it bigger and bigger. Like Charles said, you're going to be asking for the money over and over again. So if you have a little in your own pocket to start with, start there, because you're going to want to ask for the money when you've got like the goal, the idea that to like go.
Yeah. Exactly. And I'm saying like, I just was going to say really quick. I was just going to say really quick that I'm not saying non-union or union. I'm just saying keep an open mind to all the possibilities, because I think people go in with a certain way that things have to be done, and they can really be just my whole thing is just come with an open mind, because you never know what you can accomplish. That's all. What were you saying, David?
Oh, I was going to say, you know, one other way to think about, if you have no money, right, or very, very little money, is reverse engineer your script based on resources you have, right? Don't write a script that requires you to like rent out O'Hare. You know what I'm saying? There's all kinds of scenes. It could be anywhere. You know, somebody who owns a restaurant, your scene is now in a restaurant. Your cousin's got a car wash. Perfect. You know what I mean? Like lots of scenes can be lots of places. You know somebody who's got an old car from the 50s. Your protagonist now has an old car from the 50s. You know, like rather than say, I have to find a thing and rent it and it's going to cost me $2,000 that I don't have, look at the resources you have and reverse engineer. Still tell a story to tell. Do it within resources you already have. You have to have $1 million script. You can start.
Great. Sorry, I'm having a delay on my internet. Can you guys hear me? Okay. I have a question from, well, a couple of people asking similar questions, Kent K and Joan H. They have several questions regarding music. Joan asks, I would like the filmmakers to talk about how they find music. I'm a singer-songwriter and my music friends and I would like to place our songs in media. Kent also asks, how do you find music for your films? Do you use a music supervisor? Do you do it yourself? If you do it yourself, how could musicians get music to you? Or the supervisor you work with? And then he wants to, talking about typical sync fees and stuff too. But let's start off with how do you get your music for your films? Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, for Breathing Above a Tree Line, I just went to SoundCloud. And that experience was ridiculously fun. Just going to SoundCloud and just listening to music, doing searches on what I was looking for. And with the short that I made, the first short that I made with Adria is called Breathing Above the Tree Line. And by some miracle, I found a song on SoundCloud which was called Just Breathe. And I'm like, does God exist? It was one of those moments where I was like, where it's like the film gods basically, right? Where it was like that synchronicity that happens in filmmaking, right? That's the great thing about filmmaking, is that it's like when you come across that kind of synchronicity, it's an amazing feeling. And then you contact the artist, you find out like what they are seeking in terms of rights. And I did that. And then, and then you're good to go, as long as you give them the credit that they're looking for. And then you can distribute your film and you have the intellectual property, like you have not violated any copyright infringement.
Great.
So SoundCloud is where yeah.
Anybody else want to talk about music?
We usually work with composers. So Adria and I actually have been working with Andrew Edwards last, how many, I don't know, 20, 25 projects, I don't know, a bunch of projects. And I've worked with other composers before that. One of the benefits of working with a composer is it simplifies rights issues. Like if trying to get pre-existing music, rights can be really complicated and potentially extraordinarily expensive. If I wanted the Katy Perry song, the amount of money that it would cost me to put, it would cost like $500,000 of that in my short film or something like that. Would be like, that's not a thing that you want to deal with, right? So we work pretty much exclusively with composers.
Yeah, and I know Madelaine touched on this a little bit about casting who you know and connecting to who you know. And Alyssa asks again, how do you find and connect with camera ops, sound engineers, crews, editors if you don't have those contacts? Well, our composer that we work with mainly happens to be my friend since 7th grade. So it's really about tapping into people around you, networking, going to places, just sort of showing up every now and then to film screenings. Wouldn't you say, Madelaine?
Yeah, absolutely. The community is there and everybody knows at least 10 other people who do a myriad of different things. So if if someone in the film world, in front of behind the camera, ask them who they know, if they have any recommendations. And then even if it's not quite in line, talk to that person that they recommend, see who that person would recommend to you. It's like a network and it just kind of, spiders out. But the community is definitely there. And also even the film schools that we have in town. I mean, Columbia and DePaul and all of them. I mean, like there's a wealth of talent coming out of those schools as well. And all of those folks are super connected to the people that they went to school with. So it's great to continue building on like the community that you have and just keep growing the circle bigger and bigger for yourself.
Great. Charles, when you did Long Ride Home, you pretty much tapped into everybody that you knew.
Oh, everybody that I knew. The director, we worked on a project together that didn't make it out of post. But originally we found each other at Trader Joe's. He was just working at Trader Joe's, and me and my wife will go in all the time. And he's like, "Come on, young black love, I love it. What y'all do?" And I was like, "I'm an actor." He's like, "Oh, I direct." I was like, "For real? I mean, send me some of your stuff." He sent me a link, and it was good content. It was really good content. And so I was like, "Hey, let's keep in contact." And he would send me scripts that he was working on to get my perspective as an actor. And, you know, when this project came up, when the original project came up, I knew that he was the person to shoot it because of his style. And so that's important for me to, you know, I think to understand as an actor, y'all, or as a content producer, like understand the visual style that you want to go for, and don't just say yes to any director or any cinematographer because of a name or because of anything like that. Like, know what you want, because, you know, it's nothing worse than sitting in a project and you're being like, wait a minute, wait, this isn't what I wrote. This isn't what I wanted to create, because somebody else's visual style didn't match what you had in mind. So figure that part out and then find those folks. Will be my suggestion.
So I just want to talk about just because I didn't know anybody. So so just like I didn't know when I started, I had Breathing Above the Tree Line. I did exactly what David said, right? I thought about what resources I had before I went into production, like what I had available to me, so that I knew that I could shoot it. And then you can go to Production Hub, which is a website. And I just put out, the first thing I did was put out a call for cinematographers. And I said to these cinematographers, I'm not going to pay, I'll pay your day rate, negotiate that, but I'm not paying for the rig, because I can get the rig from the School of the Art Institute because I'm faculty there. And the cinematographer that I work with, that Adria and I have worked with, he called me up, he contacted me, came for a meeting. He was the only person I met. And he sat there and he said to me, he said, I read your script, I saw your previous short. And he said, I'm not only am I going to bring the rig for free, because he has a camera rental shop up in Milwaukee, but I'm going to work for free. And I was like, okay, done. Done. And I've been, and that, just that has led to 2 short films later, and now, you know, essentially development on a feature. The cinematographer was the one who came up with the concept and the title for the Christmas comedy.
Nice. Well, you guys, it really is like going back to, like, you know, being the love hippie that I am. It's just about being open and really wanting to make something. You know, it sounds like you guys are all sort of saying the same things. Can you just connect to people that are connecting to you, you know, putting it out there and seeing what sticks. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, wow, Trader Joe's, or meeting that one person for Gita, you know, it's pretty exciting. Okay, a couple of questions from Emma S., whoever wants to chime in. She says, I started creating and producing my own content 3 years ago, totaling 4 short films. Good job, Emma. My first one is an award-winning. The second is awaiting festival submissions, and the 2 others are in different stages of post-production. For someone in my shoes, what are the practical next steps that I should take to level up? She also asked, can individuals pitch projects to studios? Do they host any annual contests or open forums? What do you guys say to somebody that wants to kind of move it on up?
So, you know what? There was going to be held in Chicago. And I think it's really important actually to get on the newsletters for the Chicago Film Office and the Illinois Film Office, so you know what's happening in town. So there was going to be Screencraft was going to hold their conference in Chicago the 3rd week of April. And I got canceled because of COVID. But it was like I had a meeting with the head of the Chicago Film Office about that. And it basically, like, Hollywood was coming to Chicago. for, whatever, 4 or 5 days. And there were plenty of networking opportunities. I mean, you have, a badge costs $500, but there would have been plenty of networking opportunities, lots of screenings, lots of parties. There's also the Chicago Film Festival, which I don't know as much about. So the film festivals that take place in Chicago. Also, I went to an event right before COVID, the shelter in place. It was the Austin Film Festival in Chicago holding a Q&A at Second City. And that was also a wonderful opportunity to meet the shorts programmer at Austin and say, hey, I've got this film called Bat and I need you to look out for it. So I think it's important to get on newsletters, for Chicago Film Office, for Second City, Illinois, so what's happening in town in terms of IFA, Midwest Film Festival, right? There's so many.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm looking at some of these live questions too I want to get to. Jonathan G says, what are the signs and red flags of sleazy, inexperienced indie film projects that I wouldn't want to waste my time with? What are some of the signs that might pop up that we should tell these actors to avoid those projects? I can think of some, but what do you guys think?
Well, you should never pay for anything. I mean, if it's something where it's like pay for chance to, no paying for any chances. Although I will also say this, films can end up bad, and it's not always obvious on the set. I mean, I have unquestioned, like as a crew member, I remember being younger and being a crew member, being on set seemed like perfectly reasonable sets, and then you see the final cut and you're like, what happened? Because this is bad. And on set, it didn't seem bad. Clearly, people who were bad touched this thing, so I'll just say it's not, sometimes being really nice, the film is not going to be good, which isn't sleazy, but it's still like, maybe you don't want that on your reel. So I'll just say that.
Anybody else have anything to add about things to avoid?
Yeah, as an actor, I just make it a habit to always do my due diligence and do my research. Like that's one of the most important things we can do. So some of the research we can do as actors is, as soon as you find out who the producer is, you find out who the director is, check them out. See if they have any credits. Some of them might not because they're just starting out. But see if you can get your hands on the work that they've already created. That's going to be a really good way to gauge what this project is going to turn out like. I like to, once I've won one of the auditions and I'm in callback land or Checkaville, if they do that, probably not. But I start to enter into conversations around what type of equipment they're going to use. And as an actor and as a producer, I'm starting to educate myself on camera equipment. And so I know that when somebody has made that investment or they're shooting with that type of camera or they can speak, openly about it, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. You've already processed. You've already done that. As a SAG-AFTRA actor, I'm protected in that way because I know that to be a SAG-AFTRA film, you have to do the SPA agreement or whatever agreement it is. Then I know that they've jumped through those hoops, right? And somebody else outside of them and their friends have placed eyes on that script. So even if you're not SAG-AFTRA, still ask. Who else have worked on, who have you submitted this to, and see if you can just cross-reference it in that way.
Yeah, I think that transparency is really key. I mean, they might not give you, the entire script if you're just auditioning or something up front, but being able to answer those questions and then being educated yourself on the other side to know what questions to ask, to kind of poke a little bit and dig a little deeper. A lot of times you'll see casting calls, and casting is one of those sort of first line bits, right? That I think a lot of people don't necessarily know how to do really, really well, especially if they're new at producing. So a casting call that doesn't have all the details in it is a really great first red flag of like, they don't really know what they're doing. They didn't do their due diligence here. And that's when you will know, from an actor standpoint, like, do I even submit to this? Do I even audition for this? And back to what we were saying before, like the pay isn't necessarily a red flag, right? It's more along the lines of all of the other details, whether they're there or not.
Yeah, great. Going along a similar line with that, you guys, can you talk about perhaps the pros and cons of some film festivals, and how do we know which ones to pursue and which ones to avoid? Or do we? Does anybody want to take that?
Yeah, since I just went through this. So, I mean, film festivals are tiered. And so obviously everyone knows what the top film festivals are, right? Like Sundance and Toronto, and Austin is one, Telluride, et cetera, et cetera. And then, and so you want to, when you're ready to submit your film to a film festival, you can put it on Film Freeway, which is the hub for festivals and filmmakers to network. And there are different kinds of promotions that you can take advantage of in terms of getting the word out about your film. And then I think what's important is, with the film festival, you want to make sure that they have live screenings. You want to make sure that they have a history. You want to make sure that you can go on to Film Freeway and look at comments that people have, reviews of the film festivals. And then, it's also going to be, your festival run is going to also be constrained by how much money you have, right? Because it's also an expense. Distribution is an expense. And you have to decide how you're going to allocate money for film festival fees. But yeah, I mean, aside from the top tier festivals, there are so many great regional festivals. And what's beautiful is that those filmmakers and those audiences in smaller regional festivals are psyched and excited to see your films.
Yeah, great. Okay, I'm gonna
add a couple.
Are you what?
Oh, I was just going to say there is.
I'm like, what?
I'm just going to have a quick 2 cents, and then it's quick because, man, internet connection. One is Mooker has a list of the top, I think they call it film festivals that are worth the submission fee, which is a really good list, just as a jumping off place. It's not just the top tier, it's also exactly what Gita was talking about, like the good mid-tier ones. There are absolutely tiny little exploitational ones that you should avoid. Because of the centralized tools, there are people who are essentially doing it as, say, a small step above a con, that are barely, they're renting out a room at the Motel 6 and putting it on their laptop's projector, and there's no one in the audience but the filmmakers there. They absolutely exist, and they're going to charge just as the good festivals. So I absolutely do what Gita's talking about as far as, do your due diligence. The festival submissions are expensive. So really try to do some research about the ones that are worth your time.
Yeah, and just the thing that I wanted to add to that is that's one of those hats that I was like, nope, I'm not going to wear that one today. So, figure it out, y'all, barter it, even if you need to, if you can't pay somebody, but bring on like an associate producer or somebody like that. That's what they do. Like, their job is to submit to film festivals, and that's all they do. And they send out the correspondence. They say, hey, for your bang for your buck, this is the ones that you should submit to. But like, If that's not your jam, you're going to waste a lot of energy trying to research and figure that out. And then you're going to have this great product and be like, I don't know what to do with it, and then get blocked. So just get that out of the way and get somebody right up front to say, hey, what's the submission plan?
Great. Okay. I think I'm going to ask a few more questions until we play our silly game. Can someone talk about, a lot of actors are listening. What is it about an actor's audition or callback that makes you cast them, or what do people do in an indie film audition that make them stand out? Another question was, how does an indie film differ from another film or a network TV show, let's say? Anybody want to take a stab at that? Let's talk about actors first, and then maybe we can do the next one.
I've answered this question for you when I've come to visit your classes, Adria. And when I audition actors, what I'm looking for is that they can respond. If you give an actor sides, right, and they come in with an appropriate monologue, right, that's already an edit that an actor makes in terms of coming in with a monologue that you're evaluating. Its value in terms of the project that you're doing. And then the second thing is, once they come in with a monologue and you're sort of evaluating how appropriate or how relevant it is to the side that you've provided, or to the breakdown of the character that you provided on Actors Access or Breakdown Services. So that's the first thing, is choosing the monologue and executing it well. The second thing is, can an actor respond to direction? And that's your skill set, right? I mean, that's what you guys.
Hopefully it is, everybody. Hopefully it's yours.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Okay. David, why don't you talk about, or someone, Madelaine or Charles, talk about the difference between, how does indie film really differ from other types of on-camera work?
Well, I think that on-camera work is for Chicago, right? A lot of us are going to be getting co-star and guest star all type of auditions if we're going in for TV. It's very formulaic, right? It's very like, you come in to do this and execute this, and you're moving the story along in this way, right? For indie film, for stuff that I've auditioned for, and also, for the projects that I've auditioned people for, I'm thinking about who can pick this up and completely make it their own, and like come in and make choices that are grounded in the script. Please don't come in making choices that ain't got nothing to do with what's on the page. But if you can make bold choices that are like, oh, wow, okay, yeah, I wrote the thing and I didn't even see that in there, but it's definitely in there, right? And then to Gita's point, being able to then pivot and take that direction, I think that's it. So just being as bold as you want to, and just knowing that the film is going to be made off of your choices, essentially. Your choices are going to help in a major way, as opposed to TV, which is like, you just get on and you just ride for the little time that you're there, and then you get off.
Right. Great. Thanks.
One other thing that I add to that is, and this is, I think, probably true for film and television work generally, which is, because projects tend to be under-rehearsed relative to theater, right? There's not a lot of rehearsal. That what you bring into the room in the audition needs to demonstrate that you can bring that onto the set, right? If I was going to do a play, I could cast somebody who's 80% of the way there and say, you know what, we're rehearsing for a month. I can get them 20% in a month. I can see they take direct. You really need to be there. I need to see 99% of the way there in the audition room, because we're not rehearsing for a month. We're going to go through it like twice on set and then shoot it. I mean, it's I'd say that's a big difference, and also if you're going to talk about like a big set, indie shoots tend to be smaller. We go and do Chicago Fire Med, like one of the Chicago shows. You're going to go there and there's like freaking 100, 200, there's a lot of people there on set, and you go on an indie set and it's like, a big set is like 50 people, you know, like maybe 20 people. You know what I mean? Like that's, unless you're doing something extraordinarily big, and then maybe we're up to 25, including all the cast. You know, like it's just a smaller group of people.
Yeah.
So there's, and that's part. We were talking about the wearing lots of hats. That's part of it too. And then also occasionally on the really small ones, it's like, hey, could you hold the boom for a minute? We don't have enough hands.
That's right. That's right. Okay, great. You guys, it is game time. Are you ready? Are you guys ready? Okay, I'm ready. I love having silly games, friends. I hope you do too. Tonight's game is called True or False. Okay, so I'm going to read a statement about you guys, and then we guess if it's actually true or if it's actually false. Can you handle that? Okay, this first one is about Charles. Okay, here we go. True or false? Charles has a really beautiful wife and a really cute dog. True or false?
True.
It's true.
Definitely. Look, hold on. My wife just came in, and there's the pup too.
Yep. I know. Okay, true or false? Madeleine's name is named after the French children's book Madeleine.
Oh, I'm going to say true.
I'm going to go true too.
What is it, Madeleine?
False.
It's false.
Oh, I wanted to believe it.
I know. It seems like a good, you know, a good lie.
Okay. True or false? Gita's next academic paper is on the history of video gameology and its correlation to hand-eye coordination in cinematographers.
That would be a good paper.
I really want it to be true.
What do you think?
Sounds like an academic paper.
Is it, Gita?
False.
That sounded really good, though, didn't it?
It did. It sounded like the title of one of my papers.
See? Okay, good.
Yeah.
True or false? David was a character interpreter at Colonial Williamsburg for years, and he still loves to rock out on the fife.
Oh, I think this is definitely true.
Oh, true.
Is it?
Yes, it's true. Absolutely true.
Okay.
Funny.
Okay, just a couple more, you guys, just a few more. Okay, true or false? Madeleine can twist up her body like a pretzel in the sky because she's also an aerial artist. True or false?
False.
I'm going to go true. I'm just going to go on the laws of average. If that's
Laws of average.
What do you think? True or false?
That's definitely true because the last one was false.
What do you think? What is it, Madeleine?
It's true.
That's so true.
Yeah, I can do it too. Okay, true or false? Charles' favorite role to date is when he dressed up on Halloween like a box of Lucky Charms when he was 10.
I'm gonna go with false.
I think that sounds false.
Oh, what is it? What do you think? Is it true or false?
It's false. It's definitely false. But I did have a really good role a couple of years ago. My beautiful wife and I dressed up as our future selves at 80 years old, being married, gray hair, you know,
Good idea.
orthopedic shoe pain and all. So that was a pretty good role. I did enjoy that one.
Pictures here. It didn't happen. I want pictures.
So
Also
cute.
Instagram.
Okay, a couple more and then we're done. Okay, true or false? Gita likes to watch dailies while lounging on her bed in her bedroom.
I think true. That sounds like a pretty good way to watch dailies.
True or false?
The way too. True.
What do you think, Gita?
True.
Completely true. When I shot Breathing Above the Tree Line, I shot in my apartment and I was watching everyone out in the living room from bed, and it was directing from bed was the best.
Awesome. Okay, true or false? Last one. David's favorite karaoke song is Let's Get Physical from Olivia Newton-John, and he likes to wear his neon 1980s spandex biker shorts when he does it. True or false?
I feel like the first part could be true, but the second part is false.
What is it?
It's the combo that threw me off. I agree, false.
Right?
It's
The
a
whole thing is not true.
Okay, yay! We played the game. You guys, this was super fun tonight and so so informative. And I feel like we could have this talk actually for a couple more hours, but we won't keep you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Madelaine, Gita, Charles, and David. Oh, there's the picture. Thank you to our
Love
rock
it.
star head honcho, Rachael Patterson at Acting Studio Chicago. All of you out there, thanks again for joining us. And remember, if you want to make your own movie, I say you go for it. You can do it. My only piece of advice is don't suck. That's a wrap.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank